Ryan Clark looked out over Lake Michigan, his fishing rod held loosely in his weathered hands. The summer sun warmed his back as he sat at the edge of the public dock, legs dangling over the water. This was his favorite spot. The place he came, every Saturday morning to escape the noise of Chicago and the stress of his engineering job. Today the lake was calm, small waves lapping gently against the wooden posts of the dock. Ryan breathed deeply, savoring the fresh air. At 42, he had settled into a comfortable routine. His small apartment, his steady job at the city's water management facility, and these peaceful weekend fishing trips were enough for him, or so he thought. "Catching anything good today?" The voice startled him. Ryan turned to see a woman standing a few feet away. She wore expensive-looking hiking clothes and large sunglasses that hid much of her face. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail. "Not yet," Ryan replied, gesturing to his empty bucket. "Fish are being shy today." The woman stepped closer, extending her hand. "I'm Heather Mills. I just bought property up the shoreline." Ryan shook her hand. "Ryan Clark. Been fishing this dock for about 15 years now." Heather smiled, but something about it seemed practiced to Ryan. "You must know all the best spots." Then, "I've been trying to learn more about the lake. It's fascinating, isn't it?" For the next 20 minutes, Heather asked questions about the lake, its depth, the best fishing spots, the underwater geography. Ryan answered politely, though he found her interest unusual for someone who looked like she had never held a fishing rod in her life. "Is that a boat coming this way?" Heather suddenly asked, pointing toward the horizon. Ryan turned to look, squinting against the sunlight reflecting off the water. "I don't think so. Maybe just a—" He never finished his sentence. Two hands planted firmly against his back, shoving him forward with surprising strength. Ryan's fishing rod clattered to the dock as he lurched toward the water. Only his quick reflexes saved him, his hand grabbing a wooden piling at the last second. Heart pounding, Ryan spun around. Heather was already walking away, moving quickly, down the dock. She had a phone pressed to her ear. "It didn't work," he heard her say clearly. "The property remains inaccessible." Ryan stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. Had this woman, a complete stranger, really just tried to push him into the lake? And what did she mean by, "the property remains inaccessible"? The time his shock wore off, Heather was gone, vanished into a black SUV that pulled away from the shoreline parking lot with a spray of gravel. That evening, sitting in his apartment with a cold beer, Ryan couldn't stop thinking about the strange encounter. He opened his laptop and typed Heather Mills into a search engine. Nothing useful came up, too common a name. On a hunch, he added Lake Michigan property to his search. The results made his blood run cold. Heather Mills was listed as the acquisition director for a company called Lunar Acquisitions. According to their website, they specialized in waterfront development opportunities across the Great Lakes region. Several news articles mentioned local controversy over their aggressive buying tactics. One article caught his eye. Local residents concerned after third drowning near newly acquired properties. The piece detailed 3 separate incidents where lakefront property owners had drowned in apparent accidents shortly after refusing to sell to Lunar Acquisitions. In each case, the properties were later purchased from grieving family members at below-market rates. Ryan leaned back, his mind racing. Was it possible? Had this woman actually tried to kill him? But why? He owned no lakefront property. His only connection to the lake was his weekend fishing at this public dock. Unless... Ryan walked to his closet and pulled out an old lockbox from the top shelf. Inside were papers he hadn't looked at in years, documents from his time working at NASA's propulsion laboratory. Most people thought he had always been a city engineer, but for 3 years Ryan had been part of a classified team working on experimental drive systems. The project had been suddenly shut down 5 years ago, after an unusual discovery. During tests of a new propulsion concept, they had detected strange energy signatures from a meteorite fragment being studied. Further investigation revealed patterns that were clearly artificial, suggesting the rock wasn't natural at all, but manufactured by some unknown intelligence. 2 weeks after this discovery, the entire project was terminated. All team members were reassigned and sworn to secrecy. Ryan had been given a generous severance package and helped into his current city job. But before leaving, he had copied some of the test results. Not the classified designs, just the strange energy signature, readings that had fascinated him. He had always meant to study them further in his free time, but like many such projects, they had been forgotten in a box. Now, as Ryan spread the old papers across his kitchen table, a chill ran down his spine. The energy pattern they had detected, in the meteorite fragment, it was identical to faint readings he had sometimes noticed when testing water quality samples from certain parts of Lake Michigan. At the time, he had dismissed them as equipment errors. What if they weren't errors? Ryan spent the next 3 days calling in sick to work, reviewing old notes and running new tests on water samples he collected from different parts of the lake. The pattern was unmistakable once he knew what to look for, strongest near his favorite fishing spot. Something was hidden in Lake Michigan, something that gave off the same energy signature as that meteorite fragment. Something artificial, something alien, and someone was willing to kill to get control of it. Ryan looked out his apartment window toward the distant shimmer of the lake. For the first time, he noticed the black SUV parked across the street, and the woman sitting in the driver's seat watching his building. His life of comfortable routine was over. The lake he had fished for years held secrets, and now, for reasons he didn't yet understand, those secrets had drawn him into something dangerous, something much bigger than a simple attempted drowning on a peaceful dock. Ryan pulled the blinds shut and reached for his phone. There was one person from the old NASA team he still trusted. If anyone could help him make sense of this, it would be Dr. Alan Freeman. As the phone rang, Ryan knew with absolute certainty that his simple life had just become very complicated. And it all started because Heather Mills had tried to push him off a dock into a lake that somehow he was connected to in ways he was only beginning to understand. Dr. Alan Freeman agreed to meet Ryan at a small coffee shop downtown, far from Ryan's apartment and the watching eyes of Lunar Acquisitions. Ryan arrived early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of both entrances. He nursed a cup of black coffee, his eyes checking the door each time it opened. Alan arrived 15 minutes late, looking much older than Ryan remembered. His once dark hair was now mostly gray, and deep lines marked his face. He wore a plain, brown jacket and carried a worn leather bag. "You look terrible," Ryan said as Alan sat down across from him. "Being paranoid for 5 years will do that to you," Alan replied with a tired smile. "I got your message. You said you found something. In the lake?" Ryan nodded and slid a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of his water sample tests, showing the strange energy patterns he had detected. Alan glanced at them, his eyes widening slightly. "This is identical to what we found in the meteorite fragment," Alan whispered. "Where exactly in the lake did you collect these samples?" "Near my fishing spot, about 2 miles from shore." Ryan leaned forward. "Alan, someone tried to kill me there. A woman named Heather Mills from a company called Lunar Acquisitions." Alan's face paled. "They found you too." "What do you mean, too?" Alan looked around the coffee shop before answering. 3 former team members have died in accidents in the past year. I've been hiding, changing addresses every few months." He tapped the folder. "They want anything connected to what we found. I think they know something we don't." "But what is it? What's in the lake?" Ryan asked. Alan opened his bag and pulled out a small device about the size of a cell phone. "This is a more sensitive version of our original detection equipment. I've been working on it since the project shut down." He handed it to Ryan. "You need to go back to the lake. Find the exact source of the energy signature. But be careful. If Lunar Acquisitions knows you were part of our team, they'll be watching you." Ryan took the device. "How do I use it?" For the next hour, Alan explained how the detector worked. It was designed to pinpoint the strongest source of the mysterious energy pattern and could work underwater if sealed in the waterproof case Alan provided. "One more thing," Alan said as they prepared to leave. "The energy signature changes slightly, depending on proximity. When you get very close, it might activate something. Be prepared for anything." Ryan left the coffee shop with the detector hidden in his jacket pocket. Instead of going home, he checked into a cheap motel using cash and a fake name. He needed to plan his next move without being watched. The following night, Ryan drove a rental car to a secluded part of the shoreline several miles from his usual fishing spot. He unloaded a small inflatable boat and basic diving gear he had purchased earlier that day. The detector was sealed in its waterproof case and strapped to his wrist. The lake was calm as Ryan rowed out from shore. A half-moon provided just enough light to see by. When he was about a mile from shore, he activated the detector. A soft beeping sound told him he was on the right track, but still far from the source. Ryan followed the signal for another mile, the beeping growing faster as he approached something hidden beneath the water. Finally, the detector gave a steady tone. He had found the spot. Checking the depth finder he had brought along, Ryan saw that the lake was about 80 feet deep here, deeper than he had planned for with his basic equipment, but he had come too far to turn back. Ryan prepared his diving gear. He wasn't a professional diver, but he had taken classes years ago and kept his certification current. It was a hobby he rarely talked about. Now, it might save his life. The water was cold as Ryan slipped over the side of the boat. Using a waterproof flashlight, he descended slowly, following the detector's guidance. At 30 feet, the water grew noticeably warmer. At 50 feet, Ryan saw something that made him almost drop his flashlight. The lake floor below wasn't natural. Instead of sand or rocks, there was a smooth, dark surface that reflected his light in strange ways. It looked like metal, but unlike any metal Ryan had ever seen. As he got closer, Ryan could make out geometric patterns etched into the surface. They seemed to pulse with a faint blue light that grew brighter as he approached. The detector on, his wrist was now vibrating intensely. Ryan touched the surface. It felt warm under his fingers, despite being under 80 feet of cold lake water. As his hand made contact, the blue light spread outward from his fingertips, illuminating a vast structure beneath him. The patterns began to shift and change, forming what looked like symbols or writing. Suddenly, a section of the surface slid open, revealing a dark passage leading downward. The water around the opening swirled but did not flow in, as if held back by an invisible barrier. Ryan hovered at the edge of the opening, his mind racing. Everything in him said this was dangerous, unknown. But his curiosity, the same curiosity that had led him to join the NASA team years ago, pushed him forward. He swam into the opening, passing through the strange barrier. Once inside, Ryan found himself in a dry chamber. The water simply stopped at the entrance, defying all natural laws. He removed his mask and breathing apparatus, finding that he could breathe normally. The chamber was about 30 feet across, with walls made of the same strange metal as the outer surface. The blue light followed him, illuminating his path. On the far wall was what looked like a door, with a panel beside it covered in more of the strange symbols. As Ryan approached the panel, it began to glow brighter. A beam of light shot out, scanning him from head to toe. The symbols changed, and Ryan somehow understood what they meant, although he couldn't explain how. "Welcome, Guardian." The door slid open, revealing a vast space beyond. Ryan stepped through, into what looked like a control room from a science fiction movie. Screens and panels lined the walls, all showing the same strange symbols. In the center of the room was a raised platform with what appeared to be a control console. As Ryan approached the console, more text appeared before him, floating in the air like a hologram. "Access confirmed. Genetic pattern recognized. Lake Michigan outpost now under your command." Ryan stared at the message, trying to make sense of what was happening. This facility, whatever it was, had recognized him, accepted him. And now, according to the message, floating before him, he apparently owned it. Ryan Clark, the ordinary engineer who had almost been pushed off a dock, now stood in an alien control room 80 feet below Lake Michigan. And somehow, impossibly, it belonged to him. Ryan spent hours exploring the underwater facility, moving from room to room as lights activated automatically in his presence. Each space revealed new wonders that defied his understanding of science and technology. In one large chamber, he found what appeared to be manufacturing equipment, though nothing like the factories he was familiar with. In another, rows of sleek vehicles waited silently, their designs unlike anything on Earth. The control room became his base of operations. Through trial and error, Ryan learned to use the main console, which responded to his touch and somehow translated information into words he could understand. He discovered that the facility had been dormant for thousands of years, waiting for someone with the right genetic pattern to activate it. But why me? Ryan asked aloud, his voice echoing in the empty control room. What makes my genetics special? The answer appeared on a floating screen before him. Guardian lineage detected. Original seed genetic pattern preserved through 2,157 generations. Full access granted to Outpost 37, Lake Michigan Division. Ryan sat down on a chair that formed itself from the floor. This was too much to process. According to the information displayed, his ancestors had been part of a program established by the builders of this facility, beings who had visited Earth thousands of years ago. They had modified certain human genetic lines to serve as caretakers for their technology should they not return. And apparently, Ryan was a direct descendant of one of these modified humans. Further explorations of the database revealed more troubling information. The facility wasn't just an outpost, it was a shield generator and research station. The lake itself was partly artificial, created to hide the massive complex from detection. Most concerning was the discovery that the facility had begun emitting traceable energy signatures in recent years as its system slowly reactivated, waiting for a guardian to return. These energy leaks explained how Lunar Acquisitions had found it. But what troubled Ryan most was learning that his connection to the NASA propulsion project hadn't been coincidence. The meteorite fragment they studied had been a piece of the same technology used in this facility. His assignment to that team had been guided by algorithms in the facility's systems, attempting to reconnect with a guardian lineage. They've been tracking me my whole life, Ryan whispered, the realization both amazing and terrifying. After 3 days in the facility, Ryan knew he needed to return to the surface. He had learned enough to understand the danger. Lunar Acquisitions wasn't just after lakefront property. They were systematically eliminating anyone with genetic access to the facility, trying to force it to accept alternative command protocols. The facility provided him with a small device to wear on his wrist, allowing him to return easily through a hidden entrance that would open only for him. As Ryan swam back to his boat and headed to shore, his mind raced with plans. He needed to warn Alan and figure out how to protect the facility from Lunar Acquisitions. But when Ryan reached the shore, he found his rental car surrounded by 3 black SUVs. Men in dark clothing stood waiting. Among them, Ryan recognized Heather Mills. "Mr. Clark," she called as he pulled his boat onto the shore. "I believe we have unfinished business." Ryan considered running but knew it was pointless. There were too many of them and they were likely armed. Instead, he stood tall and faced them. "How did you find me?" he asked. Heather smiled coldly. "You're not the only one with access to advanced technology, Mr. Clark. Though I must say your little diving expedition was most informative. You found the entrance, didn't you?" One of the men stepped forward, pointing a device at Ryan. "He's carrying unknown tech, something on his wrist." Heather's eyes narrowed. "Remove it, please." "I can't," Ryan said truthfully. The wristband had bonded to his skin, becoming almost part of him. "And you can't use it anyway. The facility only responds to specific genetic patterns." "Yes, we know all about the guardian lineages," Heather replied. "Lunar Acquisitions has been researching them for decades. Unfortunately, direct access has proven challenging. That's why we've been acquiring properties around access points. If we can't control the facilities directly, we'll control the land around them." "And killing the rightful guardians when you find them?" Ryan asked. Heather shrugged. "A regrettable necessity. The builder's technology could revolutionize human development, but only if properly controlled. We can't have random individuals with no understanding of the bigger picture gaining access to such power." Ryan felt a surge of anger. "People like me, you mean?" "Exactly." Heather gestured to the men. "Bring him." We have questions that need answers before we proceed. As two men moved toward Ryan, the device on his wrist began to glow. A voice spoke clearly in his mind. Threat detected. Guardian protection protocols engaged. Suddenly the ground shook. The lake's surface behind Ryan began to churn and bubble. A massive shape rose from the water, a smooth metallic structure that towered over them. Panels slid open to reveal what could only be described as weapons aimed directly at Heather and her team. A loud, clear voice boomed across the shore, seemingly coming from the air itself. Guardian Ryan Clark is under facility protection. Hostility toward the designated Guardian is forbidden under Builder Protocol 7. Withdraw immediately or face security response. Heather's confident expression faltered. The men behind her began backing toward their vehicles. This isn't over. Clark, Heather said, her voice tight with controlled fear. You have no idea what you're involved in or what's at stake. I know enough, Ryan replied. I know the facility chose me for a reason, and I know you tried to kill me for that same reason. He took a step forward, feeling a new confidence flow through him. Here's what's going to happen now. You and Lunar Acquisitions are going to back off. The lake and everything in it is under my protection. As if to emphasize his point, the weapons systems on the emerged structure hummed with energy. Heather stared at Ryan for a long moment before responding. You're making a mistake. There are forces involved here beyond your comprehension. We aren't the enemy. We're trying to prepare humanity for what's coming. What's coming? Ryan asked. Instead of answering, Heather turned and walked quickly to the nearest SUV. Her team scrambled into their vehicles and drove away, leaving Ryan alone on the shore with the massive alien structure hovering protectively behind him. Ryan looked at the wristband, which had stopped glowing. What just happened? Guardian Defense Protocol executed successfully, appeared as text across the band's surface. Threat temporarily neutralized. Full facility emergence not recommended. Security systems returning to standby mode. The structure began to sink back into the lake, its weapons retracting. Within minutes, the water was calm again, as if nothing had happened. But Ryan knew everything had changed. Whatever game was being played, he was now a central player. And Lake Michigan, his peaceful fishing spot, was apparently the game board. Ryan touched the wristband gently. He owned this lake now, or at least the ancient facility hidden beneath it, and he intended to find out exactly what that meant. The confrontation with Heather Mills and Lunar Acquisitions changed everything for Ryan. He could no longer return to his apartment or his job. Too many people had seen the facility emerge from the lake. Questions would be asked. Government agencies would get involved. Ryan spent the night in the underwater facility, using one of the living quarters that adjusted itself to human needs. The bed formed from the same strange material as the rest of the structure, somehow both solid and yielding at the same time. Despite everything that had happened, Ryan slept soundly, feeling strangely safe beneath the waters of Lake Michigan. He woke to an alert from the facility's systems. Someone was scanning the lake with advanced equipment. The facility's cloaking technology was preventing detection, but the attempts were persistent and methodical. Through the monitoring systems, Ryan watched as government boats moved across the lake's surface. Men in official uniforms took water samples and operated equipment that looked military in origin. News helicopters circled overhead, their cameras pointed toward the water. They're looking for what came out of the lake yesterday, Ryan muttered. The facility responded with text across a nearby screen. Correct. Multiple agencies detected the defensive emergence. Recommended action. Establish formal contact with selected human authority. Ryan considered this. If he revealed himself now, he would become a test subject, locked away in some government facility. But if he stayed hidden, the search would only intensify. Is there another option? He asked. The screen displayed a new message. Guardian Authority. Permits limited information sharing. Suggest contacting trusted individual with government connections. Database indicates Dr. Olivia Bennett has appropriate security clearance and genetic compatibility rating. Genetic compatibility rating? Who is Dr. Bennett? A file appeared on the screen, showing a woman in her early 40s with dark hair and serious eyes. According to the file, Dr. Olivia Bennett was a senior scientist with the Department of Energy, specializing in advanced energy systems. More interestingly, she was also a distant relative of Ryan's on his mother's side, carrying a diluted version of the Guardian genetic markers. Can you contact her securely? The facility could. Using technology that Ryan barely understood, the facility sent a message directly to Dr. Bennett's private computer, bypassing all normal communication channels. The message was simple. Come alone to the North Shore dock. Answers about Lake Michigan await. A friend. Ryan waited nervously at the specified meeting point, hidden among trees near the shoreline. The wristband allowed him to monitor who approached, alerting him to any potential threats. 3 hours after sending the message, a single figure appeared, walking cautiously along the path to the dock. Dr. Olivia Bennett looked just like her file photo. She wore casual clothes instead of a lab coat, but her alert posture and careful movements revealed her military training. She carried no visible weapons, but Ryan suspected she wasn't defenseless. Taking a deep breath, Ryan stepped out from his hiding place. Dr. Bennett. She turned quickly, her hand moving toward her jacket pocket before stopping. Who are you? My name is Ryan Clark. I sent you the message about Lake Michigan. Her eyes narrowed. You're the one they're looking for, the man who was seen with the object that emerged from the lake. Ryan nodded. I need your help, and I think you need to see what I've found. Why me? Olivia asked, keeping her distance. Because we're related, Ryan said simply, and because you have the same genetic markers I do, just less pronounced. This caught her attention. What are you talking about? What genetic markers? Instead of answering, Ryan held up his wrist, showing the band the facility had given him. This will make more sense if I show you. Will you come with me just to the water's edge? Olivia hesitated, then nodded once. Show me, but I warn you if this is some kind of trap. It's not, Ryan assured her. It's a discovery that's going to change everything we think we know about human history. At the water's edge, Ryan activated the wristband. A section of the lake began to glow softly, and the water parted to reveal a dry passage leading downward. Olivia gasped, taking an involuntary step back. What is this? Some kind of technology demonstration? Ryan shook his head. It's much more than that. This facility has been here for thousands of years, built by visitors who came to Earth long before human civilization. And for some reason, they chose certain human bloodlines to be its guardians. He gestured to the open passage. Will you come see it? Against all professional training and common sense, Olivia found herself nodding. Something about the glowing passage seemed to call to her. Together they descended into the facility. For the next several hours, Ryan showed Olivia everything he had discovered. The control room, the manufacturing chambers, the database of information about the builders and their technology. Olivia moved through the facility with growing amazement, her scientific mind racing to understand what she was seeing. This technology is centuries beyond anything we have, she whispered, examining one of the energy cores that powered the facility. Maybe millennia beyond. The question is, what do we do with it? Ryan asked. Lunar Acquisitions wants to control it for their own purposes. The government will want to weaponize it. Neither seems like what the builders intended. Olivia was quiet for a moment, her fingers tracing symbols on a nearby wall. In my work at the Department of Energy, I've seen how technology gets buried if it threatens existing power structures. Clean energy solutions shelved because they would disrupt oil markets. Medical advances hidden because they would change pharmaceutical profits. She turned to face Ryan. This is too important to let that happen again. So what do we do? Ryan asked. We need leverage, Olivia said thoughtfully. And allies. I have contacts in several agencies and in scientific communities worldwide. People I trust. But first we need to understand what the builders actually wanted this facility to do. Ryan led her back to the main control room. The database says it's a research station and shield generator. But shield against what? Together they accessed deeper levels of the facility's database. What they found sent chills down both their spines. The builders hadn't just been visitors to Earth. They had been refugees, fleeing from something they called the Void, an ancient enemy that consumed worlds and civilizations. Earth had been one of many outposts established as an early warning system, with the Guardians left behind to activate the planet's defenses if the Void ever appeared in this part of the galaxy. Is this Void what Heather meant by what's coming? Ryan wondered aloud. Olivia's face had gone pale. If Lunar Acquisitions knows about this threat, why are they trying to take control of the facility rather than working with its rightful guardians? Before Ryan could answer, an alarm blared throughout the facility. Red symbols flashed across every screen. What's happening? Olivia asked, tensing. The facility responded with an urgent message. Multiple surface vessels detected. Weapon systems active. Depth charges being deployed. Lunar Acquisitions military forces attempting to breach facility perimeter. Ryan and Olivia exchanged worried glances as the facility trembled around them. The confrontation had escalated faster than either of them had anticipated. And now, deep beneath Lake Michigan, they faced a direct attack from forces determined to take control of the ancient technology, no matter the cost. The attack on the facility intensified. Each explosion from the depth charges sent vibrations through the structure. Warning lights flashed across every screen as Ryan and Olivia raced back to the control room. Can the facility defend itself? Olivia asked, her voice steady despite the chaos. Ryan placed his hand on the main console. Facility, what are our options? Text appeared on the screen. Full defensive protocols available. Warning. Surface emergence will result in significant human casualties. We can't do that, Ryan said firmly. These people may be misguided, but we're not going to kill them. There must be another way, Olivia agreed. The facility offered a new option. Alternative protocol available. Guardian authorization required. For emergency broadcast system activation. What's the emergency broadcast system? Ryan asked. The answer appeared on the screen. System designed to reveal facility purpose to global population in event of void detection. Includes evidence of builder technology and warning about approaching threat. Ryan and Olivia exchanged glances. This was exactly the leverage they needed. Will this broadcast go to everyone? Olivia asked. Yes. All electronic communication devices globally will receive the message simultaneously. Translation systems will ensure all humans understand regardless of language. Ryan took a deep breath. This would change everything. Human history, science, religion, politics. Nothing would be the same after the world learned about the builders and their technology. But with Lunar Acquisitions attacking and government agencies closing in, they were running out of options. Do it, Ryan said. Activate the emergency broadcast system. Guardian authorization confirmed. Broadcast initializing. The control room hummed with energy as systems activated throughout the facility. On the surface across the entire planet, something unprecedented began to happen. Every television, radio, phone, computer, and electronic display simultaneously switched to the same broadcast. The builder's symbol appeared first, a spiral galaxy, with 12 points of light around it. Then came images of the facility beneath Lake Michigan, followed by historical recordings showing the builders arriving on Earth thousands of years ago. The broadcast continued with detailed explanations of the builders' purpose, refugees from a distant part of the galaxy, fleeing from the void, an ancient force that consumed worlds. Earth had been chosen as one of many outposts, protected by technology beyond human understanding. The Guardians, humans with modified genetics, had been created to maintain the defenses should they ever be needed. Finally, the broadcast showed current astronomical data, revealing a disturbing truth. Faint signals at the edge of the solar system matched the builder's description of the void's approach. The threat they had feared was real, and it was coming. As the global broadcast continued, the attacks on the facility suddenly stopped. Ryan checked the monitoring systems and saw the Lunar Acquisitions vessels retreating. Government boats were approaching instead, but their weapon systems were inactive. They know we're here now, Olivia said. Everyone knows. Ryan nodded. No more secrets. A communication request appeared on the main screen. Multiple government agencies requesting direct contact with facility guardians. Should we answer? Ryan asked. Olivia straightened her shoulders. Yes, but we do it on our terms. The facility belongs to you, to us now. We're the rightful guardians. This technology wasn't meant to be controlled by corporations or governments. It was meant to protect humanity. Ryan accepted the communication request. A video feed appeared showing a group of serious-looking officials gathered in what appeared to be a crisis command center. At the front was a familiar face, Director Samuel Hayes of the National Security Agency. This is Director Hayes. Am I speaking with the individuals in control of the Lake Michigan facility? Ryan stepped forward. Yes. I'm Ryan Clark, and this is Dr. Olivia Bennett. We are the genetic guardians of this facility. Hayes nodded, his expression carefully controlled. Mr. Clark, Dr. Bennett, I think it's fair to say that today's broadcast has created quite a situation. The President has authorized me to establish direct communication and to offer cooperation. Not control? Olivia asked pointedly. Given what we've just learned about this technology and its purpose, control would seem to be inadvisable, Hayes replied carefully. However, I must inform you that Lunar Acquisition's vessels are being detained. Their leader, Heather Mills, has been taken into custody. She's made some interesting claims about your facility and about this void. Ryan leaned forward. What did she say? She claims that Lunar Acquisitions has discovered other facilities like yours around the world, and that the void isn't just coming. It's already here, hidden at the edges of our solar system, studying us before it attacks. The facility's systems immediately began scanning deep space, searching for confirmation. Data streamed across the screens, most of it incomprehensible to Ryan. But the conclusion was clear enough. Void presence confirmed. Estimated arrival, 73 Earth days. Director Hayes, Ryan said, his voice steady despite the terrifying news. We need to move quickly. This facility is more than just a research station. It's part of a planetary defense system. There are other facilities around the world, each with their own guardians. We need to find them and activate the full defense network. We're already tracking unusual energy signatures at 7 locations globally, Hayes confirmed. Teams are en route. Olivia stepped forward. Each facility will only respond to its genetic guardians. Your teams won't be able to access them without the right people. Then help us find them, Hayes said simply. For the first time since this began, Ryan felt a glimmer of hope. The world now knew the truth. The Builders' technology was coming to light, and humanity was beginning to unite against a common threat. 3. Weeks later, Ryan stood on the shore of Lake Michigan, watching as teams of scientists and military personnel moved equipment to and from the facility. The underwater structure was now partially visible, its upper levels emerging from the water like a futuristic island. Olivia joined him, carrying a tablet with updates from the other facilities. Good news. We've found guardians for 5 of the 7 other facilities. The Australian and Peruvian outposts are already online. And Heather Mills? Ryan asked. Cooperating, surprisingly. Once she realized we weren't going to shut her out completely, she's been sharing everything Lunar Acquisitions discovered. They've been researching the Builders for decades. Ryan nodded, looking out over the lake. His lake now, in a very real sense. The facility had legally recognized him as its owner under the Builders' ancient laws. Laws that Earth governments had cautiously acknowledged in light of the approaching threat. Do you think we can stop it? The void? Ryan asked quietly. Olivia didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was determined. The Builders gave us this technology for a reason. They believed humanity could continue what they started. I think we have to believe that too. Ryan touched the wristband, feeling the connection to the ancient facility beneath the waters. When Heather Mills had tried to push him off that dock, She had unknowingly set in motion events that would change humanity forever. The lake he had fished in for years held secrets beyond imagination, secrets that now belonged to him. As the sun set over Lake Michigan, Ryan faced the future with a mixture of fear and determination. The woman who had tried to kill him had, inadvertently, helped him find his true purpose. The lake she had tried to take from him was now officially his, recognized by laws older than human civilization, and he would use that ownership to do exactly what the builders had intended, to protect Earth, no matter what came from the stars.